Hi everyone, my name is Devin Pinkston. I'm with Identity Insights Counseling in Grand Junction, Colorado. Today is Friday, December 15th. I am actually making this video as a part 2 to a video I posted earlier this month about some of the reasons why people might detransition. I got a lot of really great feedback from some personal friends of mine and some other people who commented on the video saying, hey, I feel like you left this out of the first video, or here's some reasons why I've detransitioned myself, or I've known people who have detransitioned. So I wanted to make this one to include some of those other factors that other people were saying existed in their lives. So we'll just kind of dive right into it, get started on the very first one. So the biggest one that I came across as another reason why people might detransition gender-wise, either medically or socially, is due to finances. Now, finances play a big role in everyone's life, for the most part, regardless of whether it is in pursuit of gender-related purposes. Finances play a role in paying rent, paying mortgage, putting food on the table, so forth and so forth. But when you are pursuing something like hormone replacement therapy or surgery options, that can become very expensive over time. I know it's also dependent on whether or not you have insurance or you're paying out of pocket. And even with insurance, sometimes things can still be pretty expensive. As of 2017 and December, there are quite a few plans that do cover transitional procedures, at least in the state of Colorado that I'm familiar with. I know that will vary from plan to plan and possibly from state to state. And different type of insurance plans don't always cover the same thing. So even if you do happen to have insurance and it happens to cover some of those procedures, there might still be an out-of-pocket cost or a deductible that hasn't been met that you will then still be responsible for to cover. Surgeries are usually the most expensive for people and can range anywhere from a few $1,000s to up to $20,000 or more, depending on what type of surgery you're going for. So again, I think that's why a lot of people are burdened by transitional procedures. Socially, it's a little bit easier to kind of dress the way that you want, present and express yourself, but if you are pursuing something medically, it can be very challenging to keep that up long term. So I have talked to quite a few people recently about what that process has been like. Initially, it's yes, I'm on board and I'm pursuing this, but over time, the financial burden of maintaining that can be too much. So that's one of the first reasons I wanted to discuss today. So the second reason that someone might consider detransition or go through the detransition process is due to employment. Now, being employed somewhere is usually a very important thing. It's usually contingent on income and ability to live somewhere, ability to support yourself or your family. So being comfortable and safe in that environment, I think, is of top priority. Coming out to family and friends may be one thing, by being able to potentially put distance and space in between, maybe negative or positive reactions, but being at work, oftentimes these are people, whether it's from a managerial perspective or a coworker perspective, that you will see day in and day out. So it can be very challenging if you feel like you're up against people, employers or other coworkers who might not be supportive of you taking that step gender-wise. And also going along with a medical transition, over time there are going to be physical changes that will occur, and often that will vary from person to person. And I know that is dependent on whether or not somebody is pursuing testosterone therapy or estrogen therapy as their hormone replacement. So again, those physical changes that happen aren't necessarily things that can always be hidden. So if suddenly you come to work and in the next 3 months you start growing facial hair, people might start questioning things, even if you haven't come out as trans or gender nonconforming, non-binary, whatever it might be, or if they start to notice there's a change in clothing. Now, I have seen a lot of employers out there recently who have just kind of put it out there that they are open and very accepting of any type of person, regardless of race, sex, gender, you name it, and they are just looking for quality workers. And I think that is terrific. Kudos to you guys out there as companies that are doing that, but I know there are a lot of companies out there that haven't made that stance and might not want to make that stance. I think it's also dependent on the area that you live in and work in. If you tend to work in maybe a more socially conservative area, smaller towns where you tend to know more people, there might be that safety factor of I don't know if there's a comfort in taking this additional step. Or if you've taken that step and are coming up against adversity, that can be a major problem. I don't think anyone wants to feel intimidated, unsafe, or unwelcomed, especially in their place of work. So that's another reason why I know that some people do pursue detransitional purposes for those reasons. So the third reason why people might consider detransitioning are kind of two parts. First, societal pressure and family pressure. And both can kind of go hand in hand sometimes. With family pressure, there might be instances of cultural or religious beliefs that tie into the family being accepting or supportive of your gender transition, or the individual who's transitioning their own cultural and religious beliefs. I've actually spoken with quite a few people who have made the transition medically, specifically, who maybe haven't just divulged to their family yet that this is what they're doing, or who have divulged to their family, I am taking this step in transitioning to be the person that I want. And there's this clash of, well, if I tell them, or because I have told them, there's this possibility that I'm going to lose them. And I don't know if that's something that I'm comfortable with because I feel very close to them. I think also with partners and spouses, that's another big part of why people might do the detransition. Because I know when it comes to partners and spouses, that can be a huge hurdle for them to overcome. I have talked to quite a few people in my office, partners of people who are transitioning, and for some of them, it's a question of their sexual orientation when their partner comes out. Or it's a question of, can we sustain this relationship knowing that you're going through these changes that maybe I'm okay with, maybe I'm not okay with. And trying to reconcile, is this person the same person that I knew when we got together? So those are two big factors right there. Society is a completely different one, but as I said, can be tied into that because society is where we publicly present ourselves. So whether we're grocery shopping, we're going to a concert, we're getting coffee, whatever it might be, this is where people are going to see our expression of self and make those snap judgments about who we are right on the bat, whether it's positive or negative. And from my first video, again, I think safety plays a big part into that of, do I feel safe being out and expressing who I am, and or transitioning medically where people are able to see these physical changes. And am I comfortable with people also kind of maybe lumping me into a category? I know sometimes for clients who are kind of in the more androgynous phase of the transition where you're starting to see some changes, especially medically, or maybe you've had some surgery, but you're not maybe quite there with where you want to, have the final result of your transition. That can be problematic because I know sometimes people are misgendered, or they're assumed to identify one particular way, or people in public might be confused about identification altogether. And that then plays into the dysphoria of, oh, I'm not really who I am on the outside still as I feel on the inside. So I know that is why people do sometimes consider detransitioning because of that as well. So that's all that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. So those are the other 3 reasons that I thought were most important to add to this second video. If there are more that come up, please do leave me some comments. I would be happy to make more videos in the future on this topic because I think it is a very hot button topic for a lot of people. It's also a very informative topic, and I think this is something that needs to be discussed further because there are people who choose that route, and I think it's important to know why people maybe decide that particular process for themselves. Alright guys, feel free to subscribe to my channel, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and be on the lookout for more videos in the future. Also, if you feel like you are questioning your gender identity, or you feel like you are wanting to pursue further procedures in your transition, feel free to schedule a free consultation with me at devinpinkston.com/consultation. Alright guys, it was great talking to you today, and I will see you later.